From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is a Thunder update. I'm Jenny Carlson. The Thunder obviously have some position battles on their hands. Some are pretty well set. I think we can assume Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Serge Ibaka will be in the starting lineup. But Anthony Slater joins us on the phone to discuss those other two positions and a couple other things. Anthony, let's start, though, with the starting lineup. People wondering, will it be Steven Adams and Andre Roberson as last year, or could some other guys start in those positions? What's the latest on that?
They haven't, Billy Donovan has not said who will start. I don't think they will. I think the first time we'll get a real hint from them is going to be next Wednesday when they play the Timberwolves in their first preseason game. But, it sounds to me like the starting shooting guard, Andre Roberson, still is the favorite, I guess we could label him. I was talking to Russell Westbrook yesterday, not about who is starting, but something about Andre Roberson, and he mentioned, well, he's always on my team. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, kind of hinted that, hey, starters are playing with starters, usually in practice. Sounds like Andre Roberson's still with the starting unit. And that's kind of what Presti has liked in the past, what Scott Brooks obviously went to in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way they go. And then center, it would make sense to have Steven Adams as kind of the defensive-minded guy around, with Durant back in the lineup, Westbrook with all the offense, and then Enes Kanter coming off the bench playing backup bigs, getting most of his minutes against guys who can't exploit him as much on the other end. That seems like the smarter plan. But, like I said, they haven't hinted at that.
Yeah, and I guess, like you say, we will have to wait and see as they trot out there. I know a lot of people are going to look at that Kanter deal, though, over this summer and say, wait a second, they paid all this money for a backup. But when you look at what that second wave of guys could be, Anthony, you're looking at, a lineup that includes Kanter, Waiters, Morrow. That could be a pretty high-powered second group.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This team, as we've talked about, kind of under the radar, it's pretty deep, maybe as deep as they've ever been. They obviously don't have a James Harden coming off the bench, but, they got a Kanter who has shown he can put up 20 and 10s. Waiters, he's a playmaker. He's kind of in that Harden mold of playmaking. He's not nearly to that level. But then Morrow is your sharpshooter off the bench. And then you got a couple, some other guys like a Mitch McGary who's shown he can come in and toss up a double-double in 12 minutes. I think they're as deep as we've seen.
Well, let's talk about McGary for a second. He's one of the other guys, and not in the starting rotation conversation, but will Mitch McGary be taking minutes from Nick Collison? And then I think an equal question is, will Cam Payne eventually be the guy over DJ Augustine in that second group? Where do those two battles stand?
I kind of have a better feeling for the McGary-Collison one because we've seen McGary. We saw some of the stuff he could do last year. There was games where he was a non-factor, didn't play, or came in and didn't do anything. But there was times he'd come in and, he'd take over. He'd become the story of the game. You remember the Clippers game on a Sunday afternoon. I think it was really his first NBA game because he was facing injuries so much, and he immediately put up, a 2010 almost game. He's just got so much energy. Now it's about, the consistency, number one, on defense where he struggled, and, a lot of rookies do because they just need to figure out the coverages. And two, I think conditioning was an issue. He says he's cut about 25 pounds or so. He looked great in Summer League. And, talking to the guys, Enes Kanter was like, wow, he looks great yesterday, just talking to him. So I think, in my opinion, I think McGary's kind of got a leg up on Collison, especially in a Billy Donovan system, where I think Mitch McGary and his ability to pass and dribble and, run up and down the court will really help. As far as backup point guard goes, Cameron Payne and DJ Augustine, I'd still label Augustine the favorite, and I'm not going to sit here and say, because I've never seen Cameron Payne play an NBA game because he's never played an NBA game, so we'll have to wait and see with him, but I will say they are raving about him early. Kevin Durant said he's better than I imagined.
Well, it's interesting stuff. I will say this about the Collison-McGary question. You have to wonder, I mentioned that second wave of guys, not a ton of great defensive players. If they get into a situation with that second unit where they need some defense, seems like Collison could be a handy guy to have around to insert in those sort of situations.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Look, Nick, we're not talking about roles that are, just one of them wins it and, the other one doesn't play the whole season.
Right.
This guy plays. It's game to game, matchup to matchup. And you're right, Nick Collison is the best defensive big off the bench for sure if the two other bench bigs are Canner and McGarry. But, I think with this team, we're expecting them, especially if they're healthy, to blow a lot of teams out, to really have a good record this season. It would make more sense to rest an older guy like Nick Collison and give a younger guy like Mitch McGarry as much experience as possible, especially if it's not something that's deciding a game who plays between those two. So I just really expect Mitch McGarry to get a bulk of those minutes early in the season. Definitely
a different conversation than we were having towards the end of last year, or at many points last year when we wondered who was going to play, who was available to play. Now with all this depth, really some fun questions as this season gets headed towards that opener on the 28th. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.